I think that it's safe to say that the standard fare for mankind throughout all of man's history, even including today in most places, is arbitrary abuse and control by others. The standard instrument for abuse is government, and all over the world, liberty is always taken in the name of righteousness, never in the name of evil. In other words, what I'm saying is that large amounts of liberty is the rare occurrence in history, and oppression in varying degrees is the norm. Even in the United States, as Thomas Jefferson predicted, he said that the natural progress of things is for government to gain ground and for liberty to yield. Now, we who identify ourselves as small L libertarians are all too aware of this process, sometimes to our detriment, I believe. But the average American is unattentive, apathetic, or sometimes, or most often, a party to the assault on liberties by the state. One measure of this insidious encroachment by the state is the rapid erosion of our Bill of Rights guarantees. And I would like for somebody, and I've challenged people all over the country, to tell me which of the original Bill of Rights guarantees are fully protected in the United States today. For example, the 10th Amendment guarantees powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states and respectively to the people. Now that seems to me to be plain language. So you tell me how the federal government can constitutionally mandate speed limits, control public schools, control waste disposal sites, and make hundreds of other edicts. Better yet, try to think of something that you and I or our state can do free of federal mandates. I don't think there's anything. The 9th Amendment, for example, provides that the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Now, many people don't realize that the 9th Amendment was written to overcome Alexander Hamilton's objections to having a Bill of Rights in our Constitution in the first place. Hamilton asks, and I quote, "Why declare that things shall not be done," by the federal government he was referring to, "which there is no power to do?" In other words, Hamilton was asking, why should we have a measure saying that the government cannot restrict the press when a provision to do so is not authorized in the first place? Now, Hamilton's legitimate worry was since it is impossible to list all of our freedoms, he said that he thought that politicians and judges would rule that if they weren't listed, they weren't protected in the first place. And that no less a distinguished scholar such as Judge Robert Bork would argue that privacy is not protected by the Constitution confirms Hamilton's concern. And indeed, as we know by now, the courts have assigned the 9th Amendment to the dustbin of U.S. history. We retain a few protections of the 5th Amendment, but they're under siege. Among the protections of the 5th Amendment are, a person cannot be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Now try this. Call up your IRS agent and ask whether the information you supply on the tax form can be used against you in a criminal proceeding. And then ask, are you constitutionally required to supply that information? That's the reason why we have the charade of voluntary compliance. That way, when you appear in court and you ask that your 1040 form be inadmissible under the Fifth Amendment protections, the judge will laugh in your face. He'll say that you voluntarily supply that information. The Fifth Amendment, as we begin to find out, or as we all know, provides, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Well, the Supreme Court has gone beyond that. The Supreme Court permits, as in the Hawaii case and some others, the taking of private property for private use, which is not authorized in the Constitution at all. The Supreme Court upholds local jurisdictions who deny owners of private property the right to raise the building and build another building. The Supreme Court sanctions ordinances which deny landowners the right to chop down trees on their own land. This is very popular in California. On private property, you can't chop down your sequoia tree. Let me just talk about one more. The Second Amendment guarantees the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Now, you listen to a lot of politicians, you would get the impression that the Second Amendment is a deer hunting or a duck hunting amendment. I believe the framers had in mind when they proposed the Second Amendment was to permit people to protect themselves against wannabe domestic tyrants. And that's why the Second Amendment is under siege. That is, the very people leading the attack on the Second Amendment are the very people who want to gain greater control over our lives and restrict our freedoms. An important part of their agenda is to first disarm us.